So what's the great mystique, the magic of a durian? People travel thousands of miles to these durian farms in Southeast Asia, and what does this come from? Why the durian? First of all, it smells. So, and why is it not good enough just to have it to buy it locally? Why do you have to go to the farm to the source? So there's a couple actually interesting things about it. Is that if you eat a durian within the first 1 to 12 hours, it actually doesn't smell. Just once the fermentation process has gotten to such an extent that after it's left the tree, then it starts to smell. The other thing is that it's very there's like a whole big deal about not plucking the durian from the tree, to let it fall. Ideally, they say, is to let it fall directly to the ground, and then it naturally opens a little bit and starts the fermentation process naturally. And then you have to go find it, and hopefully find it within 1 to 12 hours, and to consume it. And that's like the best time. Or they have nets. So some people say that the nets are not the truest, most pristine way to get a durian, but for sure don't pluck it from the tree. So where does this come from? So fruit, where is fruit mentioned in the Bible? At the very beginning. So there's several opinions about what the fruit is in terms of that fruit that Adam and Eve ate from, of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. As far as I'm aware, one of those opinions is not that it was a durian, but still, it's a very strong symbolism, because if they had just waited until Adam and then Eve were created by God on Friday, if they had just waited until Friday night, until the Sabbath, then they could have ate the fruits on the Sabbath itself, as part of the enjoyment of the Sabbath day. But they couldn't wait, they didn't wait, and so they plucked. So that's the first thing about knowing, if you to get just about the durian. It teaches you the lesson about timing, that there's the right perfect time to get the durian, and no one who knows about durian says that you can pluck. You can't pluck. You have to wait until it falls, and then to consume it within 1 to 12 hours. Well, imagine that a fruit fell on Friday from this tree, and Adam and Eve waited until it was the Sabbath, and then they can consume it. Maybe around 12 hours later, or less, or more, a little bit more. But that would have been okay. But for sure not to pluck, and that's what they did. They plucked from the tree. What's the other lesson? The lesson is of the net. So a teacher, a Bible teacher and mentor, is called a fruit-bearing tree. And who consumes of those fruits? Those are the students. But a student should never try to pluck, right? A student should always be very grateful to their teacher, and very humble before their teacher, very thankful to their teacher. And when the teacher has a teaching that's ready for them, that's like the teaching is dropping for the students to partake of. And the students should then consume it, should then internalize those teachings, and then to make use of it and then teach others. But never to try to pluck. What would it mean for a student to try to pluck from their teacher? Is to try to pry their teacher, impress their teacher, and say, we deserve the next teaching. No, that's not the way to learn. A student is always on the receiving end. It's like the nets. You cast the nets, and when it's the right time, then the fruit will drop. When it's the right time, then the teacher will teach something new, and then you gather it, like the nets. You gather it, you partake of it, and then of that goodness, of that fruit, of that beautiful, delicious teaching from your teacher, then you then give it over to others. So what's the magic of a durian? It teaches us both in terms of timing, right? You have to have it, consume it just at the right time and in the right way. You don't pluck from the tree. And also, right, teaches us about being a student, and not to fall into the same thing that Adam and Eve did. They plucked, not to pluck. And what's the other lesson? The other lesson, actually, you can say in the name itself of a durian, it sounds very similar to the Hebrew word for dira, which means a dwelling or apartment. The whole goal of all of us, of all of the fruits of our teachers, is to make a dwelling place for God in this world, to make this world a holy dwelling for God. And that's we're casting our net over the entire world. And really, that's the idea that we should have in mind when we're catching these fruits from our teacher, is that we should show the entire world how delicious these fruits are, how delicious these teachings are. And this is something that we should explain. This is for the entire world. You should want to come to my teacher, because he's really dropping wonderful, beautiful, delicious fruits of the infinite wisdom, the infinite light of God. He's bringing it down to this world and revealing it for us all to enjoy from. So may this world be filled with wonderful, beautiful fruits, because this is God's world after all. We should see the wonders of God's world and reveal the holiness in all of creation.